All right, everybody, let's hold on to our seats. This is going to be a wild ride. What we're going to do today is we are going to learn how we get the quadratic equation, that's x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We're going to learn how we get that equation from completing the square, okay? So we're going to start by looking at a quadratic equation in standard form. You got x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to derive the quadratic equation by completing the square. The first thing we could do is divide everything by a, since we need that a term to be 1, like I was talking to you guys about in the last lesson. So we're going to divide everything by a. Okay? That's going to make this x squared plus ba times x plus c over a equals 0. Okay? And now, because these are just letters, we don't have any numbers in there, we don't know that that would be a perfect square trinomial. So let's go ahead and move that last term, c over a, over to the other side, and then find the term that completes our square. So we're going to subtract c over a from both sides, just like we would any other time. When we don't have a perfect square trinomial, we get it out of the way so we can then find the term that completes our square. Okay, so now you got x squared plus bax equals negative c over a. All right, so what we got to do now is we got to use that form to find the term that completes our square. Remember, that's the b over 2 squared. Well, in this case, your b term is actually b over a, and then we're going to divide that by 2 and square that. That's going to be the term that completes our square here. Okay? So first of all, remember when you divide a number like a fraction by like the 2 over 1, we end up multiplying by the reciprocal. So that would be multiplied by 1 over 2. I'll move it up there. It's going to become b over 2a, and then we're still going to square it. Okay, guys? So that's actually the term that completes the square. This right here is the term that completes the square. So we need to add that to both sides of our equation. So we're going to have x squared plus b over ax plus b over 2a squared equals negative c over a plus that same term again, b over 2a squared. All right, guys? So that's where we are so far. We've added the term that completes the square to both sides, okay? We're going to continue this on the next slide. So I'm going to rewrite what we had on that last one. I had x squared plus b over ax plus b over 2a squared equals negative c over a plus b over 2a squared. Okay? So that's what we left off with. So now let's go ahead and factor this. This is a perfect square trinomial. This right here is a perfect square trinomial. Take the square root of this, take the square root of that, multiply it by 2. Notice when you multiply it by 2, the 2 goes away here. So that fits the form of a perfect square trinomial. So if I factor this, I can factor it as x plus b over 2a squared. I just took the square root of this term, which was x, the square root of that term, which was b over 2a, and then I squared it. Okay, guys? And then you're going to set that equal to negative c over a. And let's go ahead and apply the power to all of these terms over here. So that'd be plus b squared over 4a squared. I just applied the second power to all the terms inside of those parentheses. Okay? What we're going to do next is let's find a common denominator so we can add these two things together over here. Okay, guys? We're going to find a common denominator. The common denominator is going to be 4a squared. Well, you've already got an a here, so you need to multiply the top and the bottom of this term by 4a, because you've already got and a there, and then we would have to multiply the top by 4a as well to find a common denominator to add those together. So this could be rewritten as negative 4ac over 4a squared, and then we're going to add that to b squared over 4a squared. So what we did there was we found a common denominator, which was 4a squared. So in order to get this one, the common denominator, I had to multiply this side by 4a and this side by 4a, okay? So that became negative 4ac over 4a squared plus we still have the b squared over 4a. All right, so if we add those together, I'm going to continue bringing all this down. I've got x plus b over 2a squared equals, I'm going to put the positive term first, b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Okay, guys, we're getting there. We're getting much closer to finding the quadratic equation. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square root of both sides of my equation. So this is going to become x plus b over 2a equals, I can go ahead and do the top in a square root, b squared minus 4ac, and I can do the bottom in a square root, the square root of 4a squared. Notice that whenever I take the square root of 4a squared, I'm just going to get 2a. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to have x plus b over 2a equals the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right, guys? So we're getting much, much closer. We're almost there. So we're going to go ahead and look at another slide. I'm going to just rewrite what I came up with there. X plus b over 2a equals the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right, the last thing we got to do, the last two steps, we're going to subtract b over 2a from both sides, and we're going to get x equals, that canceled out on that side, negative b over 2a. And remember, we should have done a plus or minus when we took the square root over here. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right, guys, so all we got to do now is combine our like terms because they both have the same common denominator. So we can rewrite this as x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, guys, that's how you derive the quadratic equation by completing the square. And there's a song that you can remember too. There's a song you can remember that will help you learn this. You've got x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And it's to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel, so it's easy to remember. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that.